everybody, and welcome to another wonderful episode of Ana's Food Show. I hope sincerely that you've been enjoying these shows as much as I enjoy making them for you. Today on the show, we have a recipe that is going to challenge us a little bit, but just keep an open mind. We're looking at a baked good. We're going to make a mango pie. Mangoes are in season, and so I'm just sort of lavishing on that fact that we can have mangoes and do them wherever, which way we can. If you don't have mangoes, anyway, I'll tell you what to do later. But we're going to be making a mango pie, and I'm going to walk you through how to make a good pie crust. You know, a lot of times we have fish pie, meat pies, and all of those are handheld pies, as I call them, because they're just, you know, they're a pie. It's a meat or fish mixture or whatever filling you put inside, encased in a pastry, and most often baked, and you can eat it anytime, anywhere. Well, in this case, we're going to take a little different spin, and we're going to make it for you to enjoy. On this show, one of the young artists we've been working with is a gentleman in Bamenda called Mr. Angu Waters. He is an artist and he paints. And so this painting that is sitting on the set is a painting that the first time I saw it, I went into his studio, looked at his artwork, and I just absolutely fell in love with this painting, which you have these two ladies sitting in a very traditional setting with the baby, and it's just so, it comes alive. It just makes that setting comes alive. He's an awesome artist, and also this painting right behind me, which has been on our set from the very onset of the show, is been by Angu Waters. So grab a piece of paper, coffee or tea, and stay tuned. We'll be right back to continue the show.
Ana's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
Welcome back on the show. So to get our mango pie started, we're going to work with the crust. We're going to do the crust, which is the pastry that is going to hold our mangoes while they cook. So to do that, we start with 3 cups of sifted flour. So this has already been sifted. So every time you bake, whatever you bake, make sure you sieve your flour, and when you measure in your cup, make sure you need to level it off. So if not, if you heap it, you're looking at about 1.5 cups instead of 1 full cup. So just get it packed in, and we level it off. When you're working with pastry, it's good to always have ample flour, because we're going to roll this on the countertop, but we need to start in a bowl. So we have our 3 cups of flour, and to that we're going to add 1/4 cup of sugar. You don't need a lot of sugar, just a little bit to get the flavor of the pastry nice and good, and then just about 1/4 teaspoon of salt, just a little bit. Salt is a flavor enhancer, so that's what we need. You mix all that very well. I have 1.5 cups of margarine, so I'm going to have a very soft crust. So just do that and rub that in, and then we're also going to add about 1/4 cup of water to this. So we have our flour, we have margarine, we have sugar and salt, and we just rub that in. You sort of kind of get a gari texture is usually what I call it. You just rub it in. And really, this is something that you have to do with your hands. It's better with your hands, unless if you're doing an industrial size, then you have an industrial machine that will do it for you. But at home, you just want to do it like this. You get some sort of a gari like texture and crumbly. One good thing to keep in mind when working with making pastry, especially pie crust, make sure your ingredients are just a little bit chilled. So your margarine, you can measure it, put it in the refrigerator so it just hardens up a little bit. It helps to give your pastry a crisp texture when you bite into it. And then water that you also use to get the dough together, it's good to be a little bit cool so that it would add to giving you a very nice crispy texture of your dough. So I'll go ahead and I will add a 1/4 cup of water. I'll start with a 1/4 cup. And sometimes there can be variations depending on the kind of margarine that you use. So it's good to not put all of your water at once. So we have, and if it's still at this stage and it's sticking to your hands, just know that you are still working your dough. So do not panic. Okay. And if you have a countertop like mine and your bowl is going all over the place, you just set a towel underneath and that will steady your bowl. Okay. So we have our dough together, our pastry dough together. I'm going to transfer this now on the countertop and then give it a good kneading. Doing that kneading process really disperses the fat through the pastry crust, and if it's properly kneaded, then you have a nice crispy pastry crust. So we'll just flour our tabletop here a little bit. And we have that on there. Of course, you make sure that your top is quite clean. And the best way to knead is you bring in with the heel of your palm like this, and you turn with the other hand. So it's like this, and you just turn. It's just a very simple action. So it really disperses the fat. There you go. You do that action and then you start noticing that you have a smooth. You're not really incorporating a lot of flour into it, as we're just using this to keep our counter so it doesn't stick on the countertop. So the best way to knead, you roll it in and you push it with the heel of your palm. If it's difficult to roll with the heel of your palm, it means that your pastry is actually very tough. So when you do that, just get it like that, and then you'll notice that it's beginning to be very smooth. So you know that you're on the right track. So there we have it. We have a smooth pie crust, and we're gonna let it sit for a little bit. And you can actually do this, refrigerate it. You put it in the refrigerator for about half an hour, and then you take it out, you roll it, and you set it for your plate, for your pie dish. So when we come back, we're going to put it on our pie dish and then prepare our filling for the pie. Stay tuned.
Anna's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
to the oven will be excellent for this. So this is what we're going to use, and we're going to get our crust ready. Now if you use a pie, like a baking pan for this, you can have a deep dish pan. It just means that you're going to have to maybe double the recipe to make sure that your crust goes all the way up, as well as that you have enough fruit that fills the top. If not, with your cake pan goes up straight, the tendency is that if it's not filled to the top, the pie crust is going to drag down and shrink during baking and come down, and it may not be so desirable. But if you have a shallow baking pan, you can also use that and it would work just well. But make sure you can be able to get the crust out to be able to overlap on the outside. So to do this now, I'm just going to cut this in two. So we're going to have one for the bottom and one for the top. Again, we flour our countertop well so it doesn't stick to the bottom. Just flatten it out a little bit with your hand. Flour your pin so that it doesn't stick to your pastry. Now, to roll your pastry out, you start from the middle and you push to the front. From the middle and you push backwards. From the, you turn it now and you push to the side, and the other side and you push to the side. You lift up your pastry, you turn it, you do the same from the middle to the front, middle to the back, middle to the side, and to the other side. You lift up your pastry. If it's dry, you flour it again. You go from the middle to the front and then to the back. You're just gently pushing the pastry so that it gets to the right size that you need it for your pan. And to know if it's the right size or not, you just flip it over, put your pan over it, and you can see some of it hanging on the edges already, and you know that you're about done. So you just lift it up carefully and bring it over onto your pan. Now you don't have to grease your pan, meaning you don't have to oil it like a cake pan. That is not necessary. So we'll just push this to stack on the side. Okay, and you just gently press it down. Okay, now that's good for the bottom part of this pie dish. Then with a knife or a fork, you just prick holes in the bottom so that any air trapped in it would be able to come out. Now we're going to prepare the filling that will go in here before we roll the top and put it in. For our filling, we have about 8 mangoes that have been peeled and sliced. And the slices, we don't have, perfect slices per se. We're going to add about a 1/4 cup of sugar. Just about that. About a 1/4 cup of sugar. We're going to add lemon peel. And we're just going to, lime peel rather, not lemon. We're just going to grate it right into this. Not fresh ginger, but the ginger powder that you use to make ginger tea. I'm just using the skin of the lime because it has a very good, all the oils are based on the skin. So when you use the skin as a flavoring agent, it really gives you a beautiful lime, strong lime flavor, which is even far better than if you were to squeeze the lime juice. So if you're baking and you look like you don't have nutmeg, you don't have vanilla, you don't have anything you can use to flavor your cake, if you have an orange, lemon, or lime, you can just grate the skin into your baked good and it would work just fine. I'm also going to add mint to this, just because mint adds a very refreshing flavor. And I'm just going to I just have a bunch here, which I'm going to take the stem out and then just have it in a bunch and just slice the mint into my mango mixture. Then to top it off, as I said earlier, you're dealing with fruit. As I've added sugar to it, it's going to start releasing some juices, and when it's hot, it's even going to be much more so. So we're going to add about a quarter cup of flour, just to make sure that all the juices that go into it will be, it would absorb the juices. So I have some chunks in here. And we just mix that up. Okay. I'm just reducing the particle size, which is okay. You don't want to get it too small either, else it would just go bake down to mush, to puree, and we don't want that. We want to have fruit integrity when we finally cook it. So with that, that's all there is to our filling for this, and we just pour it onto the shell of our pie. I'll just scoop that all out. Yeah, quite interesting so far. Okay, to get our pie finished and ready for the oven, we'll have to put the top crust. So again, we'll roll it out just like we did with the first crust, the bottom part of this. And so we'll just make sure you have your surface very well floured, and you go from center to front, center to side, lift it up, flour again. The lifting is supposed to help with the elasticity of the dough. So it takes its shape, and then there we go. Okay, this is about the size we had it before. That's pretty much all there is to it. And what you do now, you gently lift it up and place it from the edge to the other edge. Okay, now notice that we have some of the pie crust hanging on the bottom. So what you want to do is you press it first so it joins with the other crust that we already have to seal the edge. And if you're in a hurry and you really don't have much to do per se, you just trim it off. But you can always now go in and use that extra edge now to just pinch it and make a nice design. I'm just rolling it over and getting a design. Don't worry, all of this would okay, there we go. Okay, the pie crust is just about ready for the oven.
Anna's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
What we want to do is you just get an egg, you beat it up, and you just brush it over the pastry. I'll add just a little bit more water, just a dab of water into one egg, just to give it an egg wash. Just when it comes out of the oven, it will have a beautiful shine and it will look very appetizing and sweet. So I hope you've got your coffee or tea brewing and getting ready to be able to enjoy your pie. Pies are often served as a dessert to come after your meal. It's not as sweet as a cake would be. As you see, we do not use a whole lot of sugar, but it is just a beautiful dessert. So we'll put the egg wash over it. And then one more thing before we get this pie into the oven. Using a fork or a knife, you can make slits into the pie, but we'll just use a fork and make these holes. The reason for these holes, as I said earlier, is for air to be able to escape. If not, it's just going to be a little bit ugly when it comes out. And then one more last tip. Going into the oven, your edges are far more exposed to heat. So by the time it cooks in the center, your edges may be just too brown. To be able to protect your edges, you just take a piece of foil, you split it, like this size is fine, and you just put it from the bottom of your pan right over the edge of your pie. Just like that. And when you put it in the oven, make sure your oven is first very hot, and then after about 10-15 minutes, you can reduce it to a moderate heat temperature. Do that. There. And your mango pie is ready for the oven. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Anna's Food Show, your favorite food and lifestyle show. The assurance for your well-being.
Well, welcome back. I have taken this one out of the oven, which I started earlier. And as you can see, I still have the foil paper around it. But in the moment of baking, this part came off on this side. And unfortunately, it's the side of my oven that is a little bit on the hot side. So it looks just a little bit charred. And that is what it looks like, really. And you see the glaze on the top gives it a little bit of a shine. So it makes it look nice and interesting. What I'll do is I'll just slice a piece for myself. And again, I'll just remind you about the painting behind me. If you'd ever like artwork from Bamenda, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll hook you up with Angle Waters. He does also have a website which you can see some of his paintings. I think it's Art Cameroon, and he sells a lot into the USA and as well as England and Europe. So if you would like his painting, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll put you in touch with him. And see, this is a most delicious pie. The fruit is cooked on the inside. Now you cook it until you find that some of the juices begin to ooze out of the pie, and then you know that it's ready. And because I added flour to it, it maintains its structure, so you don't lose a lot of the fruit as in fruit juices. So, without talking too much, I will dig in. Before you eat your pie, make sure it cools down, else that filling is hot and it can burn your mouth. And it can be eaten warm or cold. With coffee or tea. It is very delicious. If you would like to taste on the show, please feel free to contact me at amundi2009@gmail.com, on Facebook at Anae's Food Show, YouTube Anae's Food Show, as well as Instagram. I hope you've been able to get something different, something new, something unusual, and I hope you've learned how to do crust and pie crust. If you don't have mangoes, you can use pineapple for the same recipe. Thank you very much for being a great audience, and stay tuned for our next show, and bon appetit.